The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.
Welcome into a very special 4th of July show right here on the UAB Director's Chair. Of course, we usually call it the UAB Director's Chair because it's the athletic director of the UAB Blazers, Mark Ingram. We kind of get away from the X's and O's a little bit and we pull back the curtains a little bit, not only just on UAB sports, but also all of college sports. And because it is a holiday, I am honored. And this is such a treat for me. But the head baseball coach for the UAB Blazers, Dunn, is joining the show. Casey, what's up, my man? Good to see you, my brother.
Hey, Tony, just enjoying the 4th, man. Got stuff on the smoker and up here on the water. And, man, I get done with you, I'll go eat and ride my boat, man. So it's going to be a good day.
Well, I'm not going to keep you too long. I appreciate you coming in on the 4th of July. Happy 4th of July to you. Certainly a lot of people around here know you from your Auburn days. They know you from, of course, your days at Samford, where you had the 16, 17 seasons there at Samford as a very successful baseball coach. And now just finishing up your 3rd year at UAB. After 3 years, you know, last time I think I interviewed you was probably about 6 or 7 years ago when I was on Jocks. And we always talk about things coming in threes, and it seems like whether it's dates, like having 3 dates with somebody, whether it's 3 years of recruiting, and now you've been at UAB for 3 years as a coach. What's been different? And first of all, by the way, I realize this, and you've done this involuntarily, but you've got to be one of the few guys that actually has moved from one major conference to another conference twice, because you did it, of course, go on to the OVC, to the Southern Conference, and now, of course, from Conference USA to the AAC. But what were your expectations at UAB based on what you knew about that program coming in? Obviously, you've been here in the state for a long period of time, and now after 3 seasons, where are you at?
Well, I tell you, it is a completely different world today than it was when I took this job 3 years ago. So you're talking about changes, just the whole landscape of college athletics, college baseball in general. It's a different way of life. So, it's been a lot of adaptation on our end, trying to figure out how to make UAB a winner, how to try to figure out a way to win championships here. And we're still searching for that, obviously. But, man, it's been exciting, too. You mentioned the change of conferences. Thankfully, the transition from Conference USA to the American here went a lot smoother than it did from the OVC to the SoCon that first year at Samford. Man, I felt like last year was a tough year in a lot of ways, but man, you just brought back a bad memory that first year in the SoCon, man. Yeah, that was a rough go. You go from the OVC, which at the time was probably, I don't know, mid-20s RPIs league, to the SoCon at that time was, probably around 10, and had College of Charleston and Georgia Southern, a lot of schools that aren't in there anymore. Man, that was some tough baseball. I remember there are a lot of days it was just like, how quick can we get to the end of this thing and get this over with? But our guys transitioned well this year. I think it's exciting. It's exciting for us in baseball. I think it's exciting for UAB as a school. It should be exciting for the fans because you've got some quality teams and some great cities to travel to. I think that's been the thing that I've really been kind of enjoyed is just going to some good places, going to some new places I haven't been, but going, good cities, easy trips and that kind of stuff. It's really been a good transition, I think.
Coach Casey Dunn, the head coach there of the UAB Blazers, joining us here and filling in, doing a fine job, by the way, for Mark Ingram, who, of course, is the athletic director, called the UAB Director's Chair. You can hear the show at least 5 days a week here on the TKR app, wherever you get your favorite podcast. And we've got another huge show that we're going to be kicking off, and I hope you can be part of this as well, coming up in August, where Andy Kennedy and Trent Dilfer will be part of the show. So that's going to be huge. It's called Inferno, and we'll start that a little bit later on in August. So every week I'm on the air talking with Mark, and obviously you have your autonomous 4, your 4 major conferences, and then you got the 28 other commissioners from the other 28 conferences who have not been asked any questions about the NIL, about the transfer portal, about the antitrust with the NCAA, with conference realignment, with everything is changing. And I know they had the meetings down in Florida a couple of weeks ago. And basically the 4 major conferences went in one room, and the 28 commissioners went in another room, and they're like, what the hell are we doing in here? And what are they meeting about in there? And they come out and say, here's how it's going to be. It's primarily been so important about college football. That's been the mover and shaker and all this. And we get that. That's the cash cow, basketball coming in second. When you're talking about baseball, at the collegiate level. How have the rules changes in the last couple of years affected a sport like baseball in college?
I think first of all, Tony, you talk about the division of the ADs. My favorite part is, you got the power commissioners griping and complaining about what the situation we're in, but yet they're the ones that asked for it. That's what I'd love to sit down with some of these guys and say, hold on a second. You're the guys that wanted to pay players. You're the ones that wanted to bring this into college athletics. And now you realize you were wrong. Mm-hmm. So maybe they should give a little more voice to the 28th that were saying, hey, hold on a second. This isn't a good idea. But as far as baseball goes, man, it's no different than basketball, football. I think, the biggest difference is it's a little more regionalized in baseball because you don't have the emphasis on college baseball outside of the Southeast that you do in other sports. Obviously football is a national thing. Basketball is fairly national, but, baseball, the money when it comes to the NIL world is really focused right now on the Southeast. When you look at what the SEC has in terms of NIL budgets, I mean, it's laughable compared to other places. I'm talking to, Power 4 coaches that, are excited to have, $300,000-$400,000 of NIL money, which the bottom barrel of the SEC is probably about $1 million right now. So, just the amount of money that is being infused into those schools is unreal. And the downside for us is we're right here in the middle of it. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to transfers or recruiting, we're surrounded by people that literally have $2 million budgets for their baseball teams. And we have a budget of our scholarships. So, it poses a challenge. But I think, this year, the portal cycle, I think the numbers were up, nationally. I think it wasn't quite as much in our area, believe it or not. And I think some of that is, kids are starting to see guys leave programs where they were having success and roll into programs that they don't play a whole lot or they don't succeed. It's easy to focus on the couple guys that are out there and, doing well and that kind of stuff. But, there's a lot of guys that aren't having success. Yeah. And, in our case, my first year here at UAB, we lost, probably our two best guys. After our second year here, we lost three guys to the SEC. This year, we were able to hang on to them. I thought we had 4 or 5 kids that I was a little worried about that could have portaled up. One of them in particular probably easily would have been a $150,000 guy, but he chose to stay. Mainly because of the opportunity he has. And he knows he's going to play a pivotal role. The draft is so relevant in baseball, positioning yourself and making sure you're in a good position for the draft. I think guys are starting to see that I got a better chance to be a draft pick, pitching every Friday night or pitching every Saturday or playing every day in the lineup than going somewhere and playing in a lesser role. So I hope that becomes a trend. I hope guys see that, can look beyond the 1 or 2 years of a paycheck with NIL and look at what's best for their career long term.
Yeah, and as opposed to being equals, which you are, and I think Marcus mentioned this, you feel more like a farm team. I mean, you're getting handpicked, and I always think it's interesting because do you concentrate more on what you potentially could lose through transfer portals or what you could gain through a transfer portal? I mean, if you're going to go handpick somebody, do you have staff? Do you actively look on other teams and other rosters for players that you can poach because they're doing it to you?
I'll be honest with you, man. 2 years ago, I got so fed up with just the kind of the back channeling of the portal. I just started calling coaches directly. I called a couple SEC guys that had Alabama kids on the roster that weren't playing much and just flat out asked, hey, man, you going to bring this guy back or not? We're trying to plan. And if you're going to put him in the portal, I want to be able to have a shot at him. And, at first when I made those calls, people were like, what the heck are you calling me about this? And then, after talking, they're like, I get it, because again, you go behind everybody's back. People talk about you can't do this, you can't do that. Come on, man. This is college athletics. There's people that cheat a lot worse than calling a high school coach to ask what his player's going to do. Doubt. So, I just started going directly to them. And thankfully, between myself, our other assistants, we have some relationships with some guys that will be honest with us. Both of the kids we added out of the portal this year were guys that we added quick. They were guys that we were able to get engaged with as soon as they went in. Kind of had a little head start on them. And I think we got a couple good ones. But, the problem with the portal is, guys at our level, for the most part, you're getting guys that haven't succeeded somewhere else. So it's no different than recruiting a high school kid. You don't know how they're going to transition to playing every day. Whereas, your SEC schools of the world, they're taking guys who have a track record. They've proven themselves in Division I baseball, and they can go out and they can buy them. We're not financially in the market to go buy people. So, we've got to go about it a different way. But we try to be aggressive a little more with the junior college world this year, because if you look at the portal success for us, it hasn't been great. We've added some solid pieces over the first couple of years, but not really guys that have been all conference or impact type players. So we tried to go about it a little different way, but you definitely monitor it. From that standpoint, we're still getting reached out to by some guys that are pretty good players, but we're out of scholarships, we're out of spots right now, and you get frustrated when you got a guy reach out to you and you don't have room for him. But at the same time, I have to remember there's other people that guy's reaching out to too, so you don't necessarily know if you're going to get them. But it's been interesting. Like I said, this portal world, I think, has been a little different than the last couple. You haven't had as much of the marquee names go in and leave, but yet the price tags in the market's still driving up. They're saying a guy that's going to be an impact arm in the SEC is $250,000 to $300,000 right now. Position players are $50,000 to $75,000 supposedly for a top end kid. So you're talking about real money in college baseball, and that's what when I think about what baseball people are spending, man, I can't even imagine in the basketball football world what some of these guys are getting.
Oh my gosh, and there's no doubt. Head baseball coach, of course, the UAB Blazers, Casey Dunn, joins us. Of course, 17 years there at Sanford, played catcher at Auburn, and of course the last 3 years at the UAB Blazers. UABblazers.com. You can check out their website, UABsports.com, should I say. Check out everything there is to offer there for the UAB Blazers. It's interesting. I watched the NBA draft last week. Probably 5 or 6 years ago, I would have never watched the draft. My 20-year-old sons really got me into the NBA draft, and I really enjoy it. And of course, I've always watched the NFL draft. Is there a reason why the Major League Baseball draft isn't as big as the NBA and the NFL draft? I went back and the NBA draft was never as big as it is now. And I do think it has, hell, even the WNBA. I mean, everyone was wanting to know where Caitlin Clark was going to go. And I mean, I actually watched a little bit of that. And I think really the timing had a big play in that, because it happens, the time of the year right after the college season, they get right into the draft. But is there a reason why? I've always wondered, because I'm a Major League Baseball fan. I'm a Cincinnati Reds guy. Is there a reason why we never talk about the MLB draft?
I think, really two reasons. One is, college baseball is behind in terms of, marketing, TV time compared to football and basketball. So players aren't as well known, even at the collegiate level. And I think that's changing now when you look at the deal ESPN has done, the marketability of what the SEC network, the ACC network, some of those stations have done as far as getting these college superstars out a little more visible, and social media presence and those things, I think is helping. But, also a lot of the top picks are high school kids that nobody really knows who they are, outside of their area. So, when you talk about familiarity, I think that's a little bit, probably something that hurts the baseball draft. They're trying to promote it. They started a few years ago bringing the top picks, to the draft itself and televising on MLB Network. And so they're trying to do some things. But I think, the biggest thing is just so many of the guys in the draft are unknowns. Plus, the draft is a lot longer in baseball than it is in other sports. It used to be a 40-round draft. After COVID, they condensed to 5 rounds just for the COVID year, and then they stuck at 20, in their efforts to try to reduce the number of professional players with cutting teams and knocking the draft round, so not as many new guys are entering into pro baseball anymore. Maybe,
and I didn't think about this, but I mean, Major League Baseball has farm leagues too. And a lot of times, you may get drafted depending on it's weird, because I can't tell you how many times I'll be watching a sport and they'll say, yeah, he was drafted by the Minnesota Twins, number 17, yet he's playing in another sport. I watch him and I'm like, well, what does this mean? And it looks like Major League Baseball kind of picks and poaches wherever they go. But you can sit there and play for a little while, and you get back out and you get back in, and I mean, that's how it works. But with the farm leagues, I think a lot of people don't really understand how that works because you're supposed to go single A, double A, triple A, and then a lot of cases, when you're a really good player, you get brought right up, and obviously once you get that Major League Baseball level, you've hit the big time, you get the big contract. So there you have it. All right, Casey, something we do every single week. We talk some classic rock. Are you a classic rock guy? You knew me. Tony. You knew me. Hold on. Yeah. You knew me for 20 years when I was doing classic rock 99.5, and then I went and started working with Aldo Greco, who's a good friend of yours, and Jay Barker doing the opening round there, or the opening. What was what was the name of that show? The opening drive. Wow, I can't believe I forgot about the opening drive 5 years ago. So as a classic, I wanted to ask you what kind of music you like, because I have a couple questions before I let you go here on your 4th of July. And then you can go
Tony,
turn
you are literally you are talking to probably the most ignorant music person you have ever spoke to. Right.
Well, I'm gonna ask you some questions that you can't get wrong. Okay.
All right.
First question is first concert you ever saw.
First concert would have been in college. Been Tim McGraw and Faith Hill in the old Auburn Arena with at the time my girlfriend, now my wife. That would have definitely been the first.
Okay, that's good. And then what would you say is your best concert you've ever seen?
I would tell you the most interesting was in Wilmington, Delaware. You mentioned you did a thing with Leonard Skinner, Tony. I was playing for the Wilmington Blue Rocks, and this restaurant, nightclub, bar thing, I don't know, is a massive place across the street from the stadium, had a weekly promotion of a wing eating challenge between fans and a player. Tony, granted, I was the player and went undefeated an entire season. Nice. What's sad is that was my claim to fame as a Wilmington Blue Rock, is I ate chicken wings faster than fans. Surely wasn't because of my play, but to say all that, the Big Kahuna was the place that sponsored it. It was also a concert venue, and I got to know those people well because every time I won, I got gift cards to go eat for free. But one day they came in before the game, and I was like, "Hey, we got you, passes and backstage and all this for the concert tomorrow night." It's like, man, I'm not a music guy. You can give them somebody else. And they're like, no, it's Leonard Skinner, and you're from Alabama. You have to go.
Oh, nice.
You have to go. And I was like, man, so me and one of my buddies, we went over there, and, Tony, I think the two of us were the only two not wearing leather pants and didn't come in on a motorcycle. So to say I was out of my element that night was an understatement, but it was interesting. I would say that was probably my most enjoyable, just because it was so out of my comfort zone.
Well, what kind of music do you enjoy? I'm assuming you're into country. Because you've seen the country?
If I listen to music, it's usually contemporary Christian would be what I would typically listen to.
Would you go see a contemporary Christian concert? Have you seen some Christian concerts?
I've been to a couple, just where kind of running into it, unfortunately, and I don't really set out to go many times. Like I said, my wife will tell you I'm pretty boring. But, there's Sanford hosted a couple in my time there, obviously with that type of a school. They had a few, had a chance to, be on a mission trip with Matthew West one time in the Dominican, and he led, a thing down there, which was pretty neat. Wasn't really around him myself, but he was a part of our group. So that was kind of cool. But it's, like I said, man, that would probably be my genre, I guess. I'll stumble into some country every once in a while. My dad was a big classic rock guy, so I grew up riding in Jeeps. My dad was a big Jeep guy, the old CJs. One of these days, I'm going to get me another one. That's a story for another day, but I had one that literally burned up on me. But that was the thing, I felt like when I got my old Jeep several years ago, my wife was like, "What do you listen to?" I was like, "Well, I just feel like this is what I'm supposed to listen to when I'm in a Jeep." That's what I grew up with.
So what were some of the songs when you got in the car with Dad? What were some of the songs or some of the bands your dad listened to? Do you remember?
Tony, I couldn't even tell you. I'm telling you, man, I'm so ignorant. I'll recognize stuff when I hear it, but I couldn't tell you the name of a song or a singer or hardly anything. It's kind of like taking a test. I was terrible at filling the blanks. but I was a pretty good matching guy. I could match some stuff up, but filling in the blanks isn't my thing.
It's all right. We'll get you back on the show again. We'll get you in a few times. We'll warm you up a little bit.
Yeah, send me a study guide or something ahead of time, man. I'll get a little more prepared for you.
Maybe someday, AC/DC's on tour right now. Maybe AC/DC would be one of those things, and they're not really the Christian rock genre, but they may be kind of fun. But I like Christian rock too. I like some Christian music. I love it. Yeah. So it's sometimes the best part of church is some of the songs I get to sing every single week. All right, Case. Right. Hey, man, thank you so much for your time, brother. Happy 4th of July. I know you're busy, and this is a holiday for you, but I greatly appreciate you filling in for Mark today. Thank you so much. And anytime you want to come on Tony Curre Radio, you let me know, okay?
Tony, thanks so much, man. I enjoyed it, and y'all have a great 4th.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Curre Radio.